Welcome! This is my new video podcast series, ChronoHackers, where I interview interesting people from the enthusiast watchmaking world. For our first episode, I'm delighted to have on Paul from Paul's 3D Things, the man behind Open Smartwatch. If you haven't heard about this, it's a open source smartwatch project that you can build at home and program and develop. It rose to fame a couple of years ago when it was featured on Linus Tech Tips, and ever since he's continued to develop and improve the watch. So I can't wait to have him on the show. He's a very interesting and incredibly smart guy. So without further ado, let's get on with the show. Welcome to the show, Paul. Thank you for joining on our first show at such short notice. I think Annie messaged you. I think we only firmed this up a couple of days ago, didn't we? So
Yeah. Thanks for the invitation. And I'm curious to what we will be talking about.
Well, I've been following your content for a while, and you've got some really interesting things out there. So some things I want to dig deep into. But yeah, let's see what we go. So with all these shows, I want to start it off with what's on your wrist and what's on your bench. So that's what watch you're wearing and what project you're currently working on. So go ahead.
I'm wearing an Apple Watch. It's 2.5-year-old Ultra version 1. And as long as it keeps running, I'll stick to that. It's not. Before that, I was wearing my own watch, which is. Let me just roll over here. Where is it? Here. It's this one.
Oh, nice.
And
cool.
you can see it has seen its. Wait, I have to get my orientation here. Has seen its fair share of UV radiation. If I switch to the scope, you can see that it's really turned into yellow.
Yeah.
It's this transparent resin. So I was wearing that for quite a bit, and then switched to the Apple Watch, and haven't switched back. I think the main reason is that it's way too practical to use it as a credit card replacement for a mobile phone to still be reachable with the embedded SIM. And that's nothing you can catch up with a DIY project.
Yeah.
You have to be realistic there. It's not the same budget we're playing with. Yeah.
Cool. And what's on your bench? What's your current project?
Latest project is this thing here. Building a tiny amplifier for my guitar. Fixing my guitar was the last thing I worked on. What else? Some little bit of hydroponics irrigation system. A generic board to hook up between a microcontroller and these WS2812B light strips, because my favorite chip is the ESP32 still.
Yeah.
The one that I used in the watch, and that has a logic level of 3.3 volts, and these light strips usually want at least 3.5 volts. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's a bit dodgy, and that's supposed to be like the idea is to have this one, like a system that I can chain into.
Nice.
And what I ended up to just doing with this one is that instead of powering the whole system through this connector, I just hook up the power source to the light strip and then just siphon off the power I need to run the microcontroller backwards through this connector, the other way around as it's intended. And that's sort of it. Yeah, I could go on. I have too many things in parallel going on, and at some point it's the watch again.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes it's too easy to start new projects, isn't it? And
I think we're all guilty of that, of having a side project, and that's like this endless loop of adding side projects.
Yeah. So let's get into the watch. So when did it launch now? So it's been going for quite a few years now, hasn't it?
Yeah, I've been working on this for quite some time. First iteration was with an ESP8266 and an e-paper display. Then switched to ESP32 because that also has Bluetooth. And this default RGB display that most of the watch prototypes I've seen are based around on. GC8, I forgot the number. And I've worked on that for quite some time. And then stumbled across Linus Tech Tips. I wrote a script for a video, sent it in. I thought it would just be read and that's it. But I was quite surprised that they made the whole video out of that, and that brought the most attention I've had on any of my open source projects still. And yeah, that was quite interesting. So that blew up my Discord server.
So going back to that, then,
yeah,
you reached out to their team, did you? And was
yeah,
like, I've got this cool project. Do you want to?
I was chatting with some of the content writers of his team on Instagram, and I sent him my script, and he took it from there on and made sure they could prepare it and record it and do everything around that.
Yeah. Wow. And yeah, I mean, that video I checked whilst I was preparing for this, and it's on 1.5 million views. So the attention you must have
I think 1.4 million happened in the first week or so.
Wow. So the attention you must have got must have just been overwhelming, was it?
I took 1.5 weeks off of work just to handle the whole influx in community work.
Yeah.
And to respond to all the questions, pull requests pouring in from the first hour it hit. I think the first one was minor corrections, but still cool. And then figuring out who was really into joining the project for more work, and who was joining the project to improve their own skills, to learn something from that, and who was seeing the project as some cheap watch because it's DIY, it should be cheaper, and do more because DIY you can do everything.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of balancing that I had to do to meet all the expectations. So yeah, that takes a lot of time. Yeah.
I think that definitely happens when you put your own work out into the wild, isn't it? Because you've built it for your own needs and your own incentives, and then all of a sudden you've got loads of people telling you why they would have done it differently, what chip they would have used, what screen they would have used, and it's just like, this is how I've designed it. Take it or leave it.
Yeah. And then I think often you get this comes, why didn't you use some other chip? And the answer is, I have this box here with chips in. I'm going to use those until they're gone because that's my budget and I've spent it all. And I thought that would be the best choice of things to be working with.
Yeah.
And that's why I chose that. And of course, if you start from scratch, do your research and see what's the best you can get right now. But usually, especially in 2021, was that 2021?
That was the video. The Linus Tech Tips was 2021.
Yeah, that was the pandemic's time where all the chips were hard to get your hands on and stuff like that. But yeah, it's always fun to learn what other things are out there to work with and get ideas for the next project, and then you have the next side projects ready to be working on. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. And I mean, obviously you sometimes do get recommendations on things that you might not have quite thought about, but it's the why didn't you use this chip argument that you see it on almost any DIY project out there. Is you should have used this, should have used that, but and
they're right, and it's valid, but not where we started. Right?
Exactly. So you open sourced it on GitHub, and obviously that brings, like you say, a lot of good and sometimes bad or time consuming things. I read your recent Patreon article about this, and by the way, your Patreon account is really cool. I'd recommend anyone sign up to it. I mean, what is it like? For me, it's £5 a month, which is well worth the content that you get out of it. Do you want to go into that a little bit?
That was the article I wrote, or the page or 1.5 pages I wrote was
I think
inspired by a comment I had on YouTube, where someone said, I've pulled all my files into a Patreon out of greed, and I basically wrote, that's correct, and the greed is not about money but about time. And one thing I've learned is that I will never use a third of my vacation up in a year to run something for free, where the chances are really, really great that someone on AliExpress will copy your board, or rightfully so will copy the board, but not support you back in any way. There was a shop I screenshotted that had sold. It says 1,000 copies sold of my watch board, and good for them. They made their own business. It's great for the community. They get their hands on cheap boards, and yeah, I do have to focus what comes out of it for me in the end. And the only way to protect myself from that is by limiting how many people have access to everything, to all the design files and so on. So if I put the design files on GitHub, um, the number of people that would then request my time to support them in building them, and I don't know what their skill set is, so that takes time to figure out how I can talk to them or what advice I can give. And the only way to limit that is just by putting a price tag to that, and that filters out 99% of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So once it's on Patreon, is it still kind of open source? Are you letting you sort of, are you happy for people to take your designs and then modify them, or
for their private fun,
yeah,
for what they want to do on their own desk, go for it.
Yeah.
I can't stop that. I can't regulate that.
Yeah.
For any commercial purposes, obviously, no.
Yeah.
That's too much time that I've put in there to just give away for free,
and
like
it's
that.
not just time, like it costs money, doesn't it? Every board that you get built is so much. And it does add up, don't you? You make a run of boards and you've missed a few traces off, so you have to order another one, and then on this one there's something else, and the R&D does cost money,
dozens of iterations.
And all your equipment.
But it's my money, and it's worth it for my own entertainment.
Yeah, exactly,
I'm not sad about that. So I would still be doing that without all this social media attention around that. And I'm still doing that, and I'm not posting half as much about it in any case anymore. Because that also leaves more time, because then I was documenting every step and posting about everything I did on Instagram, and at some point I was spending more time preparing content instead of working on the watch itself.
Yeah, I've definitely fallen victim to this. You find that you're actually spending more time trying to make a sort of a clickbaity reel rather than actually improving your design or improving the fundamentals. I've definitely found that on sort of my initial dipping my toes into Instagram.
Yeah, when you start thinking about what day in the week, what time of day is the best time to post, what should be in the first 3 seconds, does the audio have to look perfectly? It's not worth it also anymore for me. I just slap things on there and that's it.
Yeah, you could have spent all that time improving something or working on something else.
Yeah. And where were we? The article. My and the point is, I do want to share my designs, but I don't have the time to assist everyone in building them. There is always the possibility to go on my Discord server and ask there. But my experience is, if it's not the lead developer answering in these servers, no one's really going to answer. And if you really have questions, if you're on Patreon, then you're going to be the only one asking questions at the moment. So that makes that a lot easier. That allows me still to share my designs for those that really, really want it. And tips for the students: if the $5 is too much for you, sign up, cancel it, but be quick with downloading the files first. So I see that happening. You can't protect yourself against that either.
No, definitely not.
So this whole thing, it's just to limit, and not me making the decision who has access to it. And knowing what I just said, everyone has access to it for free in any case. So
let's rewind just a little bit then. Do you want to talk us through what got you started making your own smartwatch and the sort of fundamental building blocks to it? I know you've already mentioned some chips. What kind of software you're using to program it for the firmware? Do you want to kind of give us a bit of a run through on that?
Before that, I was working mostly with the ESP8266 chips, doing the obvious IoT project that you see popping up here and there among your colleagues, and did that, logging sensor data into a database, and then really being dissatisfied with the outer watch that I was having at that time. I'm not going to name a brand, but I can say that I wasn't happy with that. They had a few security loopholes on their website where you could access everything of everyone that was wearing one of their devices. Wow. And it took them too long to respond and fix it for my liking. And I thought, nope, that's it. I'm going to build my own one. I mean, in the end, I didn't succeed. They fixed their things, so you could still use that. But it's too tricky, I think, to catch up with the whole synchronization of steps and which device you want to support, just for your own use case to catch up with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the original motivation was just to it was a simple thing. You used to be able to synchronize the files to get the tracks, the GPX tracks off the watch just with the USB cable, and they changed the software that you had to go through their cloud service, and that was what was pissing me off.
Right.
You have your watch on your desk, you have the USB cable, you have your laptop, and between those two devices, I wanted the files to move.
You just wanted to pull the
from A to B, and I found it was just cheeky when I said, no, you have to upload everything to the cloud first and then download it. And that's just okay. If I have to go through your way of getting access to the files I have in front of me physically in the device, and I have to go through the cloud service, is it at least secure? And it wasn't, and that's like, no. Yeah.
So that got you on this quest to build your own smartwatch and open source it all. Well, originally open source it all. So
and the idea to open source it all was, I thought that if the community grows and there's enough interest in it, more people would help. What was really great experience was to see the most active developers, where I could see, okay, you're better at C++ than I am. Yeah. I'm going to elevate you to be an administrator of this repository, and you just fire away, you do you. If you ask me what to do, I'll be just slowing you down and I'll be standing in your way.
Yeah.
And I had him and another guy just for the last 2 years. It's been them. I haven't committed anything to that repository. So
updating the
firmware. Yeah. As much time as they have. I don't think they're still students, so I think their time budget will also tank now.
Yeah.
And or depending on their priorities. But it's up to them. That was really great to see. But hardware-wise, I've seen a couple of projects that would go close in the direction, but that wasn't really based on. The only thing that was based on the original design that was on the LTT video. There was a, how do I phrase this nicely? A derivative made, and it was half published as open source. They provided a copy of the Open Smartwatch OS repository with their changes so that it runs on their hardware. But the hardware itself, they never released the resources. So that kind of then broke the chain of then the community being able to modify that design to improve on that.
Yeah.
And yeah, was there something? I mean, yeah, no, I think that was it. Yeah. And other projects, then it's if you want to build your own smartwatch, then you have the time and skill to do it. I think building something from scratch and doing your own mistakes and learn from that is always more beneficial to your journey than starting on from an existing PCB, because I think then it's similar to me looking at source code I've written years ago from someone else. I think, okay, it's easier to just throw it away and start from scratch.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you will then see more projects starting from scratch, getting to a certain level, but the amount of work based on that level you have to put in, I think everyone then kind of gets distracted with another side project, and that's where we are.
Yeah, especially when it gets hard or when you can't quite crack one particular thing.
Yeah. And I've also put a lot of time in trying to get the GPS watch to work. And first versions, I was still committing to GitHub, but then I stopped because I noticed that I can't get the antenna right.
Yeah.
And you can't buy the components you would need or design the antenna you would need for a watch, because it has to be tuned to the PCB, to the material of the watch case. And that's beyond my skills, which is fine. And
that's a specialism in itself, isn't it? Design antennas.
And if you want to do that, you could buy that as a service to have that built into your device, but then they're asking how many are you going to manufacture. If you come up with like maybe 3 or 4, it's not in their interest anymore to talk to you.
So like Garmin and Fitbit and such, they're not using off-the-shelf GPS modules, are they not? They're specific to those devices.
Yeah.
Because like a standard GPS shield is quite a substantial thing with an antenna on it, and they only really work properly outside, don't they? So I've always wondered how you get it into a watch, and I think you've answered my question.
And it's the same. It's the same with getting a display into a case and make it waterproof.
Yeah.
If you're not the one designing the case and then having a manufacturer design the display that fits into your specifications,
Yeah.
and builds that as a whole thing for you, that's a tricky thing.
Definitely.
It's more where is it here? Desk. The monochrono, I called it, the sharp memory display. That's the replacement display for a different watch. I've forgotten the name, but if you search for the part number itself, you don't find any shops that have it. But if you search for the replacement part of the original watch that it was in, you can find it. And that's like living off of scraps somehow of trying to build things.
Yeah. So recently, I've also seen that you've been using the Elecro 32 module with an inbuilt screen. Now, I had a quick look at this. Is this basically an ESP32 with a screen attached to it?
Yeah.
And you've been looking at ways that how you could add a battery and your switches and turn that into a watch.
It has a button. It also has a rotary encoder. I designed a case for it. It's somewhere. It would take too long to find it out.
Started doing case designs.
And I think I have the case design for that on my Patreon as well. If not, remind me, I'll upload it later.
You do,
yeah. And you can build a watch out of that. It will work. What's missing from my perspective, I mean, what's great, it has a touch screen. So if I would build a watch with that, I would go without buttons. And that's also what I did with my latest design, is because buttons is impossible to get waterproof if you want to something that's 3D printable. So a touch screen helps you there. So the rotary encoder and the extra buttons are kind of space wasted on the PCB, because then I would have opted for adding an acceleration sensor, one that can do embedded step counting, so you can at least get some estimation of how many calories or steps or flights of stairs have you taken, and instead of going with the I mean, if you want to build a pocket watch with the rotary encoder on top, then it would be an awesome starting point. But if you want to get something that you want to wear every day, I know that Simon, one of the lead developers in the Open Smartwatch OS repository, he asked me at some point specific details about the hardware to replace, because there was one droplet of water that hit the USB port.
Right. And you just killed
because it's not. He repaired it in the end. But that's getting lost. Long day. and that's touchscreen, great to get waterproof. That's where I was coming from.
Yeah.
And power consumption wise, I would always go with an LCD display. The sharp memory displays, I'm a huge fan of those, because you can always see what the time is. I think for me, the definition of a watch is you have to just look at it without doing a special motion or movement or press a button to be able to see the time.
Well, I'm guilty of that, because with my watch, you do have to press a button. But I'm working on that.
Yeah, and it's the same with the smartwatch Lite. We use the acceleration sensor to that. I think it has an interrupt for tilt detection. Yeah. And if you do the right movement, then it turns it on automatically for a few seconds. I mean, that's what the first if I'd use the low battery mode on this thing, it does the same. That's one of the annoying things, is you have to charge it every day.
Yeah.
And that's kind of. On the other hand, you're walking around with an iPhone strapped to your wrist, so I think it's fair, but half a week would have been better.
Yeah,
one day is a bit.
I think for a smartwatch, I mean, you put your phone on charge every night, don't you? What's putting your watch on charge as well?
Yeah,
I don't think that's much of a problem.
Yeah. Only thing you have to just really think of an additional cable you have to take when you're going somewhere else for a day or two.
Yeah, I guess. Is it USB-C?
It has its own dongle and then USB-C cable with its wireless thing. Yeah. It's glued to my desk. Yeah. And where were we? The Electro module. And one thing I dislike about the Electro module is it's way too thick.
Right. Okay.
So one thing you asked or mentioned earlier is the cost of building prototypes. So this is my garbage bin when I need components or run out of components. That's where I go to find them, and these are all old watchboards I made. And yeah,
I've got a very similar drawer over here.
Yeah, and this is the Electron module, and it's quite thick. And if you compare that to my last design in comparison, so if you're watching this and want to see how to build a watch like that, the design files and Gerber files. How do you pronounce that? I just walk in with my German accent. That's good, but
I think it's is it Gerber?
Gerber. Let's go with Gerber. Gerber files to order the PCB, bill of materials. Example, Open Smartwatch OS branch is all linked on my Patreon. If you compare the thickness of those two, it's
and that's before you put a battery on the
Electron. So this is 11 millimeters, which I think is, or 10 millimeters, which I think is okay for a watch.
Yeah.
Anything thicker than that should be as durable as a classic G-Shock and not less.
Yeah.
It doesn't work anymore. And I mean, my first designs are also in that range, but a bit thinner. Yeah. I mean, what is nice is they have the backup battery on the back. So if your battery runs flat, you don't have to resync it with your Wi-Fi or manually adjust it.
Yes,
so
I like
that's
that
cool.
idea. Keeping because on the chip I've used on my watch, it's got two inputs. It's got your main power rail and a battery backup rail. And I've thought about maybe on the next version having just a tiny battery on the backup rail. So when you're changing the battery or when you're unplugging it, you're not going to have to set the time every time you use it.
Yeah, I had one version of my watch. I just had it in my hands here. Where is it? Here, this one that has the slot here for a backup battery.
Yeah.
And I ended removing it because the real-time chip I'm using, it's the DS3132MZ, I think it is.
Yeah.
It has two pins, one for regular power supply and one for the backup battery. If you run it from the regular power supply, it will draw 100 microamps.
Yeah.
Just in sleep mode. But if it runs off the battery pin, it's, I think, only 1.
Yeah.
And my goal was to be at least under 50 microamps in battery consumption with the display on to be able to go to aim for 3 to 6 months of battery runtime.
So is that your 1 microamp in sleep condition?
If it's running on the battery pin, yes. But if you also have your main battery connected, it will not run off the backup battery. It will run off your main battery.
Yeah.
And if you send it into sleep mode to just be counting the time and doing nothing else.
Yeah, I don't think. Can you read and write to it when it's in sleep? That's the.
Yes, it will wake up and then you can communicate with it. But the amount of current I have to send you the data sheet of it is that in sleep mode it consumes too much power versus when it's in sleep mode connected to the backup battery.
Yeah.
So I ended up running it always on the backup battery pin from my main battery with the aim of reducing the power consumption so much that we have, if we just use it as a watch, can run for 3 months or half a year or somewhere around there, so that you don't have to worry about as running your battery down as much anymore as with the Open Smartwatch that you can see on the LTT video. So that one, that had, I think, a standby current of 1 milliamp, 1,000 microamps, which is a lot, and I'm aiming for less than 50, which I still think is a lot. So 10 is the ESP, and then depending on the power supply used, you will lose some more, and then it stacks up with all the sensors added that are doing something in half sleep, half idle mode. For example, accelerometer counting steps will draw, I think, 12 microamps, was it? 8 or somewhere around there.
So if people want to make their smartwatch, where would you recommend they start? If they want to build the open smartwatch, where would be a good starting point?
Good starting point would be to get the source files from my Patreon to see if it's the right project for them. If you want to build it from scratch, the Gerber files, source files, that should be enough to get you started. If you want the PCB, you can order it from Elecro. And I think from then on, just like that one guy that ordered it from Germany did, just contact me via Patreon and ask questions. And I sent him a couple of parts for it as well. And to extend that, was another post I made. So if as long as the stock lasts and you buy it, just ping me and give me your address, and I'll send you some extra goodies to go with that, and then we can meet up on the Discord server to have a quicker chat. The chat on Patreon is it's lacking notifications. I always miss if someone writes something there. So sorry for that if you've been waiting. And and then just chat about it and let me know what's missing, and I can fill in the gaps. And
and go from there. Great.
Yeah.
So, have you got anything lined up in the next sort of 6 months to a year? What's your next big project that you want to get?
I'll write my 8th novel.
Okay, yeah, I did see that you.
Yeah, I've published 2 under my own name, and I started writing the 3rd novel, science fiction novel. I'm self-publishing that, and that's my next bigger project. Everything else will be depending a bit on what's on a daily basis grabbing my attention after work.
Yeah.
And I think it would be writing up more documentation, creating more videos around the latest PCB that I made.
Yeah.
For completeness sake, I think I won't, unless I find a bug on it, then that would be annoying, but that's likely as well, but we'll see. I try not to make any plans because it's a hobby.
Yeah, exactly.
And anything I say now, people will be asking where is it, and then I would feel guilty about that.
Okay, don't give too much away then.
Yeah.
And yeah, so finally, where's the best place people can find you? I'm guessing it's Patreon now.
Starting point would be my website, paulsmith.tech. It has the links to my LinkedIn for my professional work, the link to Patreon, links to my books. Does it have a link to my Discord? It will have one after this video. Yeah. And I think there is one. And things that I check regularly is Instagram. New messages on Instagram or easily get missed because it's like outside of the UI. You can't see this red one for new requests. Would be comments under my videos. That always comes through, and ping me if I've missed a request there.
And I mean, definitely people should sign up to the Patreon because that is, like I said before, really, really interesting.
Thanks.
I think that's all we've got time for, really. So thank you for being our first guest on the show. I hope everybody's enjoyed listening and watching this. I'll catch you again soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, thanks for having me on as your guinea pig for your first session. I hope my improvised OBS setup worked out, and I'm looking forward to see your next guests on here.
So that's all we've got time for, unfortunately. Thank you for tuning into the first episode of ChronoHackers. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. It was a great chat. If you have enjoyed this episode, please hit subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. But for now, that's all we've got time for, and I'll see you in the next one.